Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good tomorrow, or whatever time it is, wherever you are right now. Thanks for joining us. This is John Pershing Smith, or JP, and I'll be your host today on this podcast. Now, today you're going to get two stories for the price of one. How about that? Two of my favorite stories that I've used in training through the years. It's called Always Do More Than You're Expected to Do. Let me repeat that. Always do more than you're expected to do. Now, this time I'm going to share a true, quick story now of someone who did way more than they were paid to do, way more than they were expected to do, and this goes way back in time. But that doing it that little bit more has no expiration date. It's the same today as it was over 100 years ago. It was a stormy night. An elderly couple looking for a room for a night came to Bellevue Hotel in Philadelphia. The young clerk at the desk informed the couple that all rooms in his hotel were booked tonight, and also that not another single hotel room was available in Philadelphia because of an international conference. However, seeing their plight, he decided not to let them go back out into bad weather. He therefore offered them his personal room. And the couple was reluctant, as that would cause great inconvenience to the young clerk. "Well, where are you going to sleep, young man, if you give us your room?" asked the old man. He said, "Oh, I'm young and single. I can sleep at the reception area in the night. I insist that you accept my offer, as I simply cannot let you go back out in this storm. You might not even get a taxi in this kind of weather." Having been left with no choice, the elderly couple accepted the young man's offer and spent the night in his personal room. The next morning, before leaving the hotel, the old man, after having expressed his gratitude, offered a handsome reward to the young man. He said, "Please don't embarrass me with the offer of money for my room. I didn't give my room expecting any monetary compensation. I just wanted to be of some help to you." This old man was really touched by the young man's compassion as well as a high sense of honesty. He said, "You're really a good human being, son. I thought God had stopped making people like you. What are you doing here in such a small town? A person like you should become the manager of the best hotel in the world." And the clerk said, "Sir, I'm quite happy working here in this small hotel, and moreover, I don't have the skills to run anything bigger than this. However, I thank you for your kind words and compliments. Tell me," the old man asked, "if someday I built the best hotel in the world, would you come and join me?" The young man thought that this was some kind of jovial gesture from an old man in an emotional moment. "Yes, sir, if you build one, I will definitely join you," said the young man. "Goodbye," said the old man. "You'll hear from me soon." 3 years passed. The young clerk was already promoted to manager of his little hotel. While going through his mail one day, he opened an envelope and he found an air ticket to New York with an invitation letter to attend an inaugural function. However, no details about why he was invited. The young man was so curious he decided to go. Upon his arrival in New York, the young man was welcomed by his host, who personally took him downtown. There in front of him lay the finest hotel he had ever seen. "That," said the gentleman, "is the hotel I built for you to manage." While standing on the street corner beside this soon-to-be world-renowned Waldorf Astoria Hotel, the young clerk, George C. Bolt, was titled its first manager. For the next 23 years, until his death in 1916, Bolt remained faithful to the hotel and the confidence Mr. William Waldorf Astor had placed in him. As they say, it doesn't matter what path you took to get there. Once you get to the top of the mountain, the view is the same. And always remember that those on the top of the mountain, they didn't fall there out of the sky. They climbed, they clawed, they scratched, they hurt, they feared, etc., but they made it to the top. Some people will think, "Man, that old George sure was lucky." Now, remember what I've taught for many years, even to my own children as they were growing up. Quote, "If you will always do more than you're expected to do, always work harder than you're paid to do, you always be the go-to guy or a go-to girl who's always willing to do that little bit more, and you will always be the luckiest person around." Maybe you'll get lucky, like that young hotel clerk in Chicago, Mr. George C. Bolt. Just always remember this. The definition of luck is when opportunity and preparedness intersect. And we never know where that intersection is located, so we should always be prepared. Remember this. You are worth it, and your dreams are worth it. Be strong. Don't give up. Persevere. Get out there, and luck will find you. Now, story number 2 was kind of parallel story number 1, similar but different with a similar ending because of luck. In the early part of the 20th century in New York City, a storm had come up suddenly and the weather was very cold. In the city's busiest business district, a young man named Thomas was working as a clerk in the men's clothing department when an elderly woman, wet from the rain, came to the doors. The young man saw her and went to ask if he could help her with anything. Shivering from the cold, she said, "No, thank you. I just need to get inside someplace warm and dry. If you'll just let me stay here, I'll leave just as soon as the rain stops." He said, "But there must be something I can do for you, ma'am. At least let me get you a chair and you can rest." She thanked him and off he went to get the chair. He seated her and asked if he could get her a cup of hot tea. And off he went again. By now, several other of the store employees had gathered round the old lady and engaged in conversation. Pretty soon she had begun to warm up and her clothes were drying out. In a little while she told Thomas that she really must be getting home, and he walked outside with her to hail a taxi. He gave her his business card and said for her to contact him if any time she was in the city and there was anything he could do for her. Thomas went back to his work, straightening clothes on the rack in the men's clothing department, a little smile on his face, as he remembered how grateful the elderly lady had been. Months went by, and one day a well-dressed gentleman who was being driven by a chauffeur pulled up in a limo in front of the store. The gentleman came inside with a business card and asked for Thomas. Thomas was called, and he went to the front of the store to meet the man, where the man asked, "Are you this Thomas?" And Thomas said, "Yes, that's me," with a quizzical smile. The man then asked Thomas, "Do you remember a few months back when the elderly lady came into the store to get out of a rainstorm and you made her comfortable and called a cab for her?" Thomas answered, "Oh, yes, she was a very sweet lady." The gentleman then said, "Young man, my name is Andrew Carnegie, and the lady was my mother. I appreciate you taking care of her in the manner you did, and I want you to come to work for me. I will triple your salary and give you a job for as long as you want it. I'm about to build a magnificent castle in Scotland, and I want you to come to Scotland and finish it top to bottom." To which Thomas replied, "But I'm a menswear employee. I don't know anything about furnishing a castle." Andrew Carnegie said, "Don't you worry about that. You will have a large staff of people who can do all that. I need you to head up that staff, and I already know how you're going to always treat them by the way you helped my mother. They'll get the job done under your kind of supervision. How much time do you need to get things in order to go to Scotland?" Let's look at this earlier part of that story. How did this man, Andrew Carnegie, get to be so wealthy he could build a castle? Andrew Carnegie, born November the 25th, 1835, Scottish-American industrialist, business magnate, and a philanthropist. Carnegie led the expansion of the American steel industry in the late 19th century and is often identified as one of the richest people and richest Americans in the world. He became a leading philanthropist in the United States and in the British Empire. During the last 18 years of his life, he gave away about $350 million, billions in today's U.S. dollars, to charities, foundations, and universities, almost 90% of his fortune. And Thomas was lucky, wasn't he? Thomas was lucky to have been able to help Mr. Andrew Carnegie's mother, although he had no clue who she was when he offered his help. See, that's called always do more than you're expected to do. Always do more than you're paid to do, and you'll always be the luckiest person around. Now, as per Mr. Paul Harvey, now you know the rest of the story. God bless and make it an awesome day. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you in the winner's circle. Goodbye for now.